Thanks very much, Sai. If I can, before we throw open, I can ask you a question. It was quite clear to me that the issues that I was talking about, and both of us talked only about Bharat, the issues that I talked about that Bharat needs right now, and if you were to correlate it to why Modi won the second term, I would put to you that Bharat, more often, more largely than any other constituency, if you want to call it that, was satisfied. Bharat was satisfied because what Bharat got was exactly what Modi promised Bharat would get. Gas cylinders at breakneck speed, Gadkari was there to provide highways, and you had Ayushman Bharat, health insurance, you had so many other things. Basically, the necessities Modi promised and Modi delivered. So Bharat, I put to you, did not have much of a grouse. And I also added to that 15 years down the line, Bharat will start having grouse because all that money has to come from something. So right now, all that money is coming from borrowing. Very little of it's being generated to, or maybe a fraction of what India is capable of generating. We are still shackled into a socialist state, proud socialist state. I mean, I don't want to even go into the details of the examples. We're still growing sugarcane to the extent we are the world's second largest producer of sugarcane. We are destroying the environment through that. We use the irrigation water required for that is equivalent to 1 quadrillion liters. It requires only 7% of arable land, but it requires 77% of irrigation water. And sugar prices have halved in the last 6 years. And just day before yesterday, the government increased purchase of sugarcane to 350 rupees per quintal. So, we are a socialist state. 10, 15 years down the line, Bharat would start to wonder, look, it is not going according to how we planned. We were satisfied, we are not satisfied now. What you seem to be saying, that Bharat has not demarcated necessity and economic prosperity and what it is getting with the cultural one. So you're saying something very interesting, that maybe Bharat wants both of them to go side by side. And what you also said, Bharat would prefer to have protection before economic prosperity. Did I hear you right in that?
So I don't think we have arrived at a point where perhaps, notwithstanding the fact that development is a necessity, and that can't be denied at all, I don't think it has become an issue on the basis of which elections can still be contested. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I would simply judge it on the anvils of whether Hindus can afford to treat development as the primary parameter on the basis of which you decide on the performance of a particular government. I don't think we have arrived, we don't have the luxury of taking that decision yet. In your opening remark, you made a point on the state being a welfare state and whether is it desirable in the first place. I would want to think of a model, and with people like Muthuramanji being here and other economists being here who are capable of answering this question, I would seriously ask myself this question: is there a way that the society is a welfare society whereas the state is not a welfare state? And strike the distinction between the state and the society. Is there a way that societal institutions can partner with the state to ensure that certain benefits are rendered on the basis of community resources, the manner in which German churches aid the government of Germany? Is that a model that you can consider looking at? In which case, then of course, it'll come back to the pet peeve of who controls those institutions, who has the say with respect to its resources, what would be the identity of the state, so on and so forth. That model may actually work well without, and I would hope that these obligations, societal obligations which are cast on the societal institutions, come from within as opposed to a state imposition, okay? That way, you would have perhaps done something which is very, very important, moved the needle from a rights-based discourse to a duty-based discourse to a significant extent by creating such an atmosphere. And the burden and the tendency to look up to the state for everything, that my baap mentality, could come down. And you're hoping to create a certain spirit of self-reliance in the society itself by making sure that these institutions take responsibility for some of these aspects. Now, for instance, whenever there is, let's say, disaster management that has to be undertaken, there is no active handshake between the state and the society when it comes to disaster management. Everybody does it because they feel that they have to or they want to, but there is no plan here which involves making them stakeholders or participants in such, let's say, situations. Going beyond disaster management, can we look at the next level as well? Start with disaster management and see how you can partner with them, and then extension of civil facilities, identification of groups, inclusion of these institutions for the purposes of census collection. That is a role that several of these institutions perform in Europe. If that seems to be the model that you constantly look up to, these are the things that you could perhaps learn from them as opposed to the worst of things possible.